You're me. You're 3 years old and your mom reads your favorite book, One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish, to you for the 7 billionth time as you drift off to sleep. Fast forward. You're a little older now. You're in elementary school and the librarian offers to help you pick out your first chapter book. But you already know what you want. You want Harry Potter. You've heard your mom talk about how awesome it is and you can't wait to dive into a new story. More time passes. You're 13. You've read all of the Harry Potter books multiple times now, as well as dozens and dozens of other novels. You spend your free time not only reading, but watching movies and playing video games as well. You devour any story you can get your hands on like they're keeping you alive. But eventually, even that isn't enough. You begin to write your own stories. A couple of them win awards in local competitions, which just adds fuel to the fire. You consume and create harder and faster than ever. By the time you're a senior in high school, you've become chief editor for the school's literary journal. You're in charge of reading dozens and dozens of submitted stories, but that too just makes you want more. Books, movies, video games alone aren't enough. You want to not only enjoy stories and create them, you want to understand them. You watch YouTube video essays and read film critics' articles dissecting stories. You take online masterclasses from famous authors like Neil Gaiman and Judy Blume. You spend hours and hours on IMDb and Goodreads, obsessing over stories and the concepts that build them. Why? Because you're human. My grandpa, a professional writer and editor, once told me something I'll never forget. He said the best nonfiction is written like it's fantasy, and the best fiction is written as if it were real. That's because humans are drawn to stories. Stories allow us to better understand one another, feel connected to the past, imagine the future, and push ourselves beyond what we think we're capable of. There's a moment in The Two Towers by Tolkien where Sam Gamgee says something that, in my opinion, captures what stories do for us. It's not dramatic or overly complex. No, the profound impact of what he says comes in its simplicity. Two little hobbits, cold, exhausted, and unsure of their future, pause long enough to ask, what story are we in? And perhaps more importantly, does the story matter? With a little help from Sam Gamgee, I'm here to answer with a resounding yes, the story does matter. Because stories give us courage to keep moving forward, even through the most brutal parts of the journey. Now here's what Sam has to say. Yes, that's so, said Sam. And we shouldn't be here at all if we'd known more about it before we started. But I suppose it's often that way. The brave things in the old tales and songs, Mr. Frodo, adventures, as I used to call them. I used to think that they were things the wonderful folk of the stories went out and looked for, because they wanted them, because they were exciting and life was a bit dull. A kind of sport, as you might say. But that's not the way of it with the tales that really mattered, or the ones that stay in the mind. Folk seem to have just landed in them, usually. Their paths were laid that way, as you put it. But I expect they had lots of chances, like us, of turning back. Only they didn't. And if they had, we shouldn't know because they'd have been forgotten. We hear about those as just went on, and not all to a good end, mind you, at least not to what folk inside a story and not outside it call a good end. You know, coming home and finding things all right, though not quite the same, like old Mr. Bilbo. But those aren't always the best tales to hear, though they may be the best tales to get landed in. I wonder what sort of tale we've fallen into. Sam's words are gentle, but they carry a profound message. Stories shape the way we understand our lives. They give meaning to uncertainty and suffering. Sam admits that neither he nor Frodo would have chosen their path if they'd known how difficult it would be. But then again, that's true for everyone, isn't it? None of us choose the challenges we face. Stress, anxiety, the weight of expectations, loneliness, heartbreak, loss, and, well, fill in the blank. Still, Sam suggests that what makes a story meaningful isn't comfort. What makes a story meaningful is perseverance through suffering. The Hobbit remembers the folk of old tales, not as far-off legendary figures, but as ordinary people who had the chance to quit and simply didn't. That's why The Lord of the Rings inspires so many people. It tells the truth that not all heroes are fearless champions like Aragorn, Gandalf, or Eowyn. Sometimes the hero is just a little hobbit who keeps walking even when the road is dark. Psychologist Jonathan Goshel argues in The Storytelling Animal that humans use narrative instinctively to, quote, organize experience into a coherent structure so that life feels meaningful rather than chaotic, end quote. In other words, we survive the present because we understand it as part of a story. Sam discovers this truth in the heart of Mordor. Maybe you discover it in the classroom, hearing from your family back home, in your relationships, or when you're feeling homesick. In those moments, stories may not remove the difficulty, but they can remind us that the difficulty does not have to define the ending. This sentiment resonates with something that one of my friends and mentors, Tessa, often says. It will all be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it's not the end. A history book might tell us that perseverance matters. A psychological study might reveal that hope increases resilience. But fiction shows us what it means to carry a burden, what it means to take one more step when every bone in your body seems to scream to turn back. This is the value, the praiseworthy quality that Sam's passage elevates. Stories teach us to choose faith over fear. Thank you.